back on salt. We have healthy alternatives for you, but they have lots of flavor. So Chef Shahir is back with us.
Yeah.
And we've been sort of on this movement to cut the salt, cut
Sure.
the salt, cut the salt.
Yeah.
But we want the flavor. We don't want
flavor.
our food to taste dull.
Exactly. And I love salt. You know, every chef loves salt.
Yes.
I'm not here to lie to our audience and say, you know, I don't love salt. I put salt on ice cream. I love it.
What?
I love it. I do. I put it on fruits. I have a problem.
Oh, you really love salt.
Salted fruits is delicious. But my wife doesn't like salt as much. So when cooking at home, I'm finding new creative ways to always have flavor, less salt.
Right. Good.
So the first category, this is the most important category in my opinion, is acid.
That will replace.
That will replace salt, and here's why. As a professional chef, we season with acid all the time.
Yeah.
And I would say 99% of the time when you're cooking something and you taste it and you say, it needs something. It's a hit of acid. You know? Sometimes if it needs salt, you'll know, okay, it needs a little pinch of salt.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you're like, what is that je ne sais quoi that I'm missing?
Yeah.
It's acid. I once worked with a cook named Tony. Hi, Tony. 10 years ago.
Okay.
He'd walk around the restaurant saying, I love acid. Like, are you on drugs right now, Tony? Or are you talking about lemons? But acid is key when cooking.
It's key.
And we use it when you have something fatty, for example.
Yes.
You cut the fat with a little splash of lemon juice, and it wakes up flavors. So, of course, in the acid world, we do know lemons, we do know limes.
Yeah.
Don't forget the zest.
Yes.
We always use the zest, lots of flavor to wake things up.
Yeah.
And then in the wintertime, blood orange is my favorite kind of fruit to use in terms of a hit of acid.
Yeah.
It's almost like a cross between an orange and a grapefruit. A little bit acidic, a little bit sweet, a little bit bitter.
A little tart.
A little bit tart in a pleasant way. So make a vinaigrette with that. Cut the segments into a salad. Tons of flavor.
Nice.
You'll end up using less salt.
Okay.
Also in the acid department, of course, vinegars. And we know vinegars, and you know balsamic, you know red wine vinegar, you know, all great acids to use.
Yeah.
But then you can get creative, and I went to the store the other day. Coconut vinegar. So let's say I'm making a Thai curry.
Yes.
Pop a coconut vinegar at the end. Wake things up. I'm using less salt, but still waking up those flavors.
Coconut vinegar.
Date vinegar.
Oh.
What's this about? You know.
What is going on?
So get creative with those acids when you're using marinades. Again, vinaigrettes.
Yes.
Every time I make a gravy or a rich sauce.
Yep.
A little plop of acid at the end to wake things up using less salt.
Good.
So look for different acids.
Okay, that's going to fill in the you know, wherever the salt left, that's going to fill in the spot.
Seasoning with acid.
Herbs and spices.
Herbs and spices. You know all these herbs. I'm not here teaching anyone anything new, but I've put them into two categories. These are the herbs that I like to keep raw.
Okay.
These are really fresh, vibrant herbs. Of course, basil, dill, coriander, parsley, chive. I don't necessarily like to cook with these herbs when I'm using less salt. I'll chop them and finish a dish at the end, and I'll use a lot. And those will really carry through the flavor profile of the dish using less salt. Whereas these hardier herbs, sage and thyme and rosemary, I feel like those herbs should be cooked. But again, using them in abundance, you'll find you use less salt. Good. So when I see someone sprinkling on like a little bit of chive, I'm like, no, man, give me some herbs.
Put all of it.
Yeah, come on, be generous, it's cheap. And then spices. So I brought a little sample from my pantry. My pantry's covered in stuff like this. Yeah. There's like 200 of these things. I go to I don't read, Tracy, I have other hobbies, okay? This is what I do. So I go to a bulk food store. Yeah. I load up on the spices and look at what you'll find at a bulk food store. You'll find like habanero.
They have everything now.
They have everything. So get out of your comfort zone if you're moving away from salt.
Yes.
And look for, you've got dry orange, dry lemon, herb de Provence, Szechuan peppercorn.
Yes.
If you're cooking with less salt, take a trip to the bulk food store, pack them in see-through kind of containers, label them, and then get creative with the flavor profiles you can play with without using the salt.
And you kind of have to try and figure out the ones that, you know, go with your palate and that you
100%.
absolutely love, but getting outside of your box
And for sure, certain things will go better with pork or chicken or vegetarian. Play with it, have fun with it, but you will get a whack of flavor without salt.
Okay, good stuff.
Okay.
Finally, there's certain ingredients that are automatically going to add that salty flavor to your dish.
Absolutely.
What would you suggest?
So the first one is a little bit scary for some people. These tinned kind of seafood things like sardines,
oh, there's nothing
oysters,
scary about that.
are so good.
They're great.
And I like the ones packed in oil because let's say I'm making a pasta dish and I want to use less salt.
Yeah.
I'll use that oil packed full of that salinity, that natural seafood flavor.
Yeah.
A little bit of chili flake, a little bit of garlic. Now you've got a simple oil sauce that has tons of flavor without adding additional salt.
So we're talking about mackerel,
you got mackerel,
smoked oysters.
Yeah.
What have you got here?
So these are the sardines in olive oil. I always like it in olive oil. Yum. So good. Even on a piece of bread.
They do gross people out, actually.
They do, but you know what? Even if you're grossed out, like we did earlier, a Caesar salad dressing or a mayo, puree it in and you won't see it, but you'll get that what is that? And you don't tell them. You say, yeah, you know, it's
Whatever,
my secret.
it's something.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's something.
And then, of course,
Just eat it.
Yeah, just eat it.
Just eat it.
Black olive.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
puree this with a hummus. I'll puree this with cream cheese. I'll
Nice.
puree this. I'll even puree this with Greek yogurt as a savory topping onto a grilled chicken breast or whatever.
That's nice.
Really nice.
Yeah.
You're adding natural salinity without adding additional salt.
Okay.
A salty cheese, Pecorino Romano.
Yes.
Use Parmigiano Reggiano. All these salty cheeses are really, really nice on any food to add a salty bump without actual salt. Seafood, not seafood, seaweed.
Seaweed.
Sheets. So wrapping them in some rice.
Yeah, that's
making
going to
a
add
little seaweed
it.
taco kind of thing. I puree this with butter, and I always use unsalted butter.
Right.
You want to control your level of salt in any recipe. So making different compound butters and stuff, really great ways to add salt without adding salt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. Soy sauce as well.
The low sodium.
The
always.
low sodium.
So finding low sodium
Got it.
ways to control it.
So you control it.
Exactly.
Good stuff, chef. Let's